Okay, so we have this example here where not only do we have variables in the denominator, but we have full-on expressions. And how do we handle that? So first thing is you want to think about the restrictions. We cannot have any of these expressions equaling 0. So if you kind of think about it, if what value for x would cause this to be 0? Well, if I would put a 2 here, 2 minus 2 is 0. So you can just kind of think about the fact that opposites make 0. So positive 2 and a negative 2 will make a 0. Positive 1 and a negative 1 will make a 0. So those are our restrictions. X cannot be 2 and x cannot be 1. Again, all that does is just help remind us, that if I happen to get a 2 or I happen to get a 1, I have to reject that solution. Okay, so the main part here is to clear the fractions. So to do that, we have to come up with the LCD. So it's kind of similar principle that we did before. It's something that will cancel everything. So basically, you can kind of think of the fact, like, say I have a 2, some fraction, 3, and something over here. So if I were to try to find the least common denominator where I would have a 2 and a 3, they don't share any common factors. So the least common multiple would just be the multiplication of the 2. So least common denominator, what would cancel a 2 and a 3 denominator would be a 6 here. You just multiply the 2. So it's kind of the same principle here. And x minus 1 times an x minus 2 is going to be our LCD. So that whole thing. So again, I'm going to encourage you guys to kind of do this mentally, but I will show you basically the principle on the first fraction. So if I multiply x minus 1, x minus 2 by each and every fraction, this is kind of the principle of what's happening. So say I have this x minus 1, x minus 2 times 3 over x minus 2. Well, the x minus 2's are going to cancel, and I'm going to end up multiplying 3 by x minus 1. And I end up with 3x minus 3 because you would distribute that 3 to the x and to the negative 1. So if I just kind of go through the rest of this process mentally, trust me, it's a lot less intimidating looking if you do it mentally, and usually students have a pretty easy time picking up on it. If I take this fraction and I cancel first, the x minus 1's are going to cancel. I'm going to be left with x minus 2 to be multiplied by the numerator. So this next line is just going to be x minus 2. Okay. If I multiply x minus 1, x minus 2 by the last fraction, the whole thing will cancel, and I'll just be left with this plus 7 here. So we went from something that looks like this to something that looks like this. Much, much less intimidating to solve this equation than this one. So from there, you're just going to simplify and solve. So I'll just show you those steps real quick. So all I've done here is combine the negative 2 and the 7. Then you want to get your variables on one side, get your numbers on the other. It'll be a good time to pause the video and be sure that you can do these steps on your own. So if I subtract x from both sides, I get 2x on the left. And if I add 3 to both sides, I get 8 on the right. Divide both sides by 2, and you get x equals 4.